Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.
From Mansur's on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge, we're out to lunch with editor of the Baton Rouge Business Report, Stephanie Regal. It's business Baton Rouge style.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Regal. Welcome to Out to Lunch. Retail apocalypse is a word you're starting to hear a lot. It suggests not merely that there is a crisis in the retail sector, but that it is really, really bad. And this is due, of course, to the impact Amazon and other online retailers are having on brick and mortar stores. That said, some local retailers have been able to find a niche and operate successfully amid this changing landscape. What does it take to not only survive and thrive in this post-apocalyptic shopping scene? Well, joining me today to discuss this is Chris Russo Blackwood, co-owner of Russo Ross, a popular women's boutique on Jefferson Highway here in Baton Rouge. Chris grew up in an era when American retail landscape possibilities seemed endless, though she didn't actually start out in the retail sector. In fact, she was a journalist with The Advocate and then later with In Register magazine, which she headed as publisher. In 2011, she sold the magazine and wrote a true crime book about the murder of local businessman Ted Kergan in the 1980s. Then in 2012, she and longtime friend Susan Ross decided to take their careers in an entirely different direction and open Russo Ross. Their thought was that in today's retail environment with extremely high and extremely low price points, they would offer classic, well-made clothes at a reasonable price. And Chris, it's a great idea if you can figure out how to make it work, and I think you have. So thanks so much for being here today. We look forward to hearing about it.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
Joining me and Chris is Kevin Langley, a Baton Rouge-based entrepreneur and entrepreneurial expert who is president and co-founder of Entrepreneurs Across Borders, a global nonprofit organization that helps high-potential entrepreneurs in developing countries. He is also working locally with the eBay Retail Revival Program, an initiative launched by eBay a couple of years ago that came to Baton Rouge in May of 2019. The program is a way to help small businesses learn how to compete in the digital marketplace by training them over a year-long period, providing them with individualized coaching and also promotional support so that they can learn how to sell their stuff on platforms like eBay. Working with eBay to help local entrepreneurs is actually one of just many hats Kevin wears. He's worked with global NGOs and has his own holding company that has invested in and helped grow dozens of successful companies over the past 2 decades. Now, Kevin, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, Stephanie.
Well, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Did you ever see yourself as a retailer, and what made you want to do that after running magazines and writing books?
Well, it kind of starts with at the beginning of my career. Back in the olden days, we actually had a fashion reporter at The Advocate, and that was me. So I covered fashion markets, New York, LA, Atlanta. It was kind of cool. And I went
back in those days, they would actually probably fly you to the
yes,
fashion show.
Exactly. And I had this big old suitcase thing that was, how I went down to the basement of the hotel and hooked up. I don't even know how to explain it. But anyway, so I felt like I needed to know more about fashion. I went back and got my master's in clothing and textiles. So that was a long time ago. But I do know fashion. I do know fabrics. And so people are amazed when they ask me the question you did, how to get involved in this. And I say, hey, I always knew about fashion. I always knew about clothing. Used to make my own clothes. But anyway, Susan and I saw that there was a need in this community for a place where women could buy clothing, that women of a certain age could buy clothing that was still fashion forward but age appropriate. Mm-hmm, nobody wants to look mama.
No.
And we couldn't find that personally at that time. So we said, well, why don't we just try it? And it's been great. 8 years.
Wow, that's hard to believe. And where do you get most of your clothes? I mean, do y'all shop market all over? And
we do. It's kind of been in a transition since we started. We started by going to markets in New York and Dallas because some of our vendors didn't have reps in Dallas. And now Dallas has gotten to be a pretty big market, and so it kind of doesn't pay to go to New York because we would still deal with our rep in Dallas. So mostly now we're going to Dallas, but we have a wide range of vendors, clothing, accessories, but mostly Dallas.
So interesting. Well, Kevin, I want to bring you into the conversation. You wear many hats, but since we're talking retail right now, tell us how you got involved with the eBay Retail Revival and what the program is actually doing.
So Stephanie, many years ago when I graduated from LSU, I started my first business. And it was a very lonely thing to be an entrepreneur and starting a business. And so what I've learned is the people that you associate yourself with, you can learn from them. And peer networks are critically important. I think that's what's missing in most communities, is the business owners getting together and learning from each other. So my experience is growing businesses and connecting people in various communities around the world. And the mayor's office reached out to me when eBay was first identified as potentially coming to Baton Rouge, and we had to win this. They were looking at many cities. So Baton Rouge can be very proud of the fact that eBay, one of the largest multinational platforms, selected Baton Rouge, and the reason why is because they saw the potential in Baton Rouge. So the mayor's office basically asked me to help court eBay to Baton Rouge, because that's what I do, is identify some amazing people around the world, and I see it in Baton Rouge everywhere I go. People starting businesses, the innovation and the creativity. And this is a way for Baton Rouge business owners to get on a global platform of 180 million potential customers.
Wow. So let's say Russo Ross wanted to be on eBay. What would you do for them? What would the program do for them?
The neat thing about it is we actually have a informal e-commerce group in Baton Rouge. So that's the first thing for her, is to get engaged with the e-commerce group in Baton Rouge. The second thing is eBay went through the list of Baton Rouge businesses and selected 65 of the ones that they could help the most. And so they just started that program, and they're already seeing significant results. And the goal for that program is to build community around that group and help them with the other business owners in Baton Rouge.
So just curious, I of course saw all the news about this initiative starting up in Baton Rouge, I looked at it for us, but since we don't have what I would consider a unique product to sell, we don't originate any of our products or create them. Is that really something that we would be a fit for?
It's relevant, but maybe not the best fit, because what these platforms are very good at is somebody that's innovative and has a unique product, they do exceptionally well. So we have, believe it or not, a lot of auto parts manufacturers doing exceptionally well on the eBay platform. And so there's fashion and there's bath and body, business and we have an incredible industrial corridor here in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And those subcontractors that are making those very unique products that are having trouble.
Very specific, right?
Very specific products are trying to get it out there. It's a great platform, along with Amazon and some of the other platforms as well. So it's not just about eBay. It's about how do we engage businesses to get global.
On other
How does Baton Rouge go global?
All right. Well, that's a question we're going to explore in a moment. Chris, you got into brick and mortar just about the time that this retail apocalypse was beginning, and that things were switching more to online, and it's only gotten worse. So how do you still get people to walk into your store?
Well, a lot of different ways. But first of all, I think that when we started Russo Ross, part of our mission was to build a community of women, much like you're trying to build a community of entrepreneurs. So we didn't want people to just come in and buy an article of clothing or something for one occasion and not come. So we spent a great deal of time working, courting our customers. We are pretty much their sounding boards. They come in. We had a lady who came in, I need a dress, and we outfitted her, and she said, I knew I'd be able to come here and find something. So it's that kind of confidence we're trying to instill in our customers, so that when they think of a place to go shopping, they come to us. We do a great deal of email marketing. We have quite a list there. We do some print advertising, which works for our demographic, which is a little bit older. People are always astonished that we do that type of advertising, but it works.
It does work.
It works.
Certainly.
And we do social media, quite a bit of social media, but I find our social media, we don't have as much immediate reaction as some of the other things.
And I guess there's less and less competition, really, in terms of the brick and mortar for your specific demographic.
No, I think
there
that's
are not
true.
a lot of boutiques for anybody over the age of 40 that has something that's cute.
I think that's true, and we do offer. Of course, people. The main thing brick and mortar stores have going is people can come in, they can touch it, they can try it on. It's immediate gratification, like the lady yesterday. If it works, they can purchase it and go home, feel good about it. But we also did quite a bit of research in the beginning about what the women were looking for. We had a focus group who identified they wanted to be in a large dressing room with mirrors in the dressing room, so no, they didn't have to come out if they didn't want to. These sort of things. We play kind of oldies music. Again, I'm referring to our demographic. So, literally, they'll come in there and they're humming and singing along. And so we're trying to provide a place where they feel very comfortable. And we do act as, their fashion, we're their stylists. We're very blunt with them. We don't just try to sell clothes. We're definitely trying to, engage people in a relationship where we can, where they have confidence in us.
So interesting. Now, Kevin, you've worked with a lot of businesses over the years, entrepreneurs, retailers of different types. How did you get started in this field? And your holding company, Langley 16?
Yeah.
What exactly does that do, and what types of businesses have you invested in?
So to be clear, my focus is about entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So it's not just about retail. And in particular, we have a lot of great businesses in Baton Rouge that have started in Baton Rouge that most people don't even know about because they're online and they're e-commerce. Like, for instance, Mike Hackley and Corey Tisdale with Barbecue Guys, right? Mm-hmm. Most people don't know that they started that business 10 or 15 years ago and was one of Baton Rouge and the world's fastest growing e-commerce businesses. And they keep adding more jobs and more products and services. And people fly into Baton Rouge to actually go visit their store over there on Coursey Boulevard. And that's a pretty cool thing. So my background is not really just retail.
Right,
it's
right.
really e-commerce and entrepreneurship. And so what I'm doing is encouraging the brick and mortar stores to do exactly what Barbecue Guys did way back when. They had a brick and mortar location, they went e-commerce, and now they have both, and they're doing exceptionally well. So it's not either or. It's really about both and differentiating yourself. And, a lot of women like to shop from home, and I shop from home as well. So it's nice to be able to look online and see what's going on and then hop in the car and go drive and try it on.
But how do you recreate that experience of a store?
It's interesting you said that because now that we have a community of entrepreneurs that are focused on e-commerce in Baton Rouge, they're working on 3D photographs and technology to help that experience increase. And so in the beginning, it was YouTube and shooting a video and explaining the product. And now they're working on some really interesting things, and we're going to see what's coming next.
And so who is the we? Is there an entrepreneurial community?
We have a small group of what I would consider leading e-commerce businesses in Baton Rouge that are learning from each other, developing systems and processes, and identifying the workforce that can do this. Something as simple as 3D photographs. It's kind of new, and there needs to be a little bit of collaboration to actually create that.
So how could a brick and mortar store like me, who's maybe considering e-commerce or maybe not, but just wants to get involved with this network, how would it behoove me to do that?
Well, we need to get you in with some of these other people that they're working on things, because some of them are very close. They're not willing to share it until they figure it out and do it.
Of course.
Right? So that's part of what we're doing. It's just like with eBay, giving them access to 180 million potential shoppers. That's pretty powerful. Amazon's the same way. We've got some incredible Amazon businesses here that you'd never think about. So for your store, I don't think it's going to solve all the problems. It's not an instant quick fix, but there's elements that can help drive some revenue and sales growth.
Kevin, what is a 3D photograph? How do you view a 3D photograph on a two-dimensional platform like a screen?
It's basically shooting a product where it'll go 360 degrees around the product, so you can on the screen turn the product and see every different element aspect of it.
So very, very interesting.
Yeah, there's lots of technologies that they're developing. It's really interesting. It's fun.
You mentioned the eBay. How many people are they sending down here to work with our local businesses? Was it like a task force that they dispatched to Baton Rouge, or is it more of an online consulting kind of thing?
First of all, eBay was considering numerous cities throughout the U.S., and so we had to really convince them and sell them to come here. And it's no gimmick. They are serious about it. They've so far we've had 6 different events through the course of the last year to identify the businesses that they could really move the needle on. They selected 65. They flew in 25 specialists in numerous different categories where it's hands-on work.
So how long does eBay
They'll be
remain?
here. They're committed to Baton Rouge for a year, with coaching specialists, all kinds of resources and knowledge sharing. It's been phenomenal. They've been fantastic to work with. And to be clear, I don't work for the mayor's office or eBay.
Correct.
I'm private sector. I'm doing this to help Baton Rouge business owners.
So how do you make money,
I
Kevin?
don't make money.
What is your
I don't make money at this.
No.
I've been very fortunate to have numerous companies, and I've traveled around the world, traveling for nonprofits and governments, helping build entrepreneurial ecosystems. And so we have a nonprofit, and also I have some very successful friends that are providing resources to help businesses around the world. So my focus right now is developing countries. And it's nice to be able to help Baton Rouge out while I'm doing it.
So I want to talk about that, but you actually have a for-profit business where you basically invest in businesses.
Yeah, it's commercial construction, real estate. But I'm at the stage of my life. I mean, I have triplets that are 17 years old. They're in 3 separate schools. I'm learning how to be the parent of my parents. I have aging
Right.
parents, and I'm going. Like everybody, I have a lot of balls in the air and
Yeah.
a juggling act.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Stephanie Regal. I'm talking with Chris Russo Blackwood of Russo Ross and entrepreneur Kevin Langley. We'll be right back after this very short break. You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Stephanie Regal. I'm talking to entrepreneur Kevin Langley and Chris Russo Blackwood of Russo Ross. Chris, you've been in Baton Rouge a long time, and you're in a traditional business. How do you see the retail market here, as compared to what you hear from your colleagues in other parts of the country?
I think it's very similar. The most insight we get is from our vendors, from the different people representing our different brands, because they can tell us. We go to market, they can tell us what's happening in other places. I think with the brick and mortar women's, specifically retail stores, I don't know about men's, but probably similar. You're seeing a lot of the proprietors, they're getting older, and it's not the kind of business. I've bought and sold businesses too, but this is not really a kind of business that you could line up in the same way to sell. So you're seeing a lot of those ladies retire, and nobody's taking their places. So there are definitely fewer specialty stores. However, the niche stores are going to do the best. I mean, I see stores in our market and other markets where they don't know who they're selling to. They might have white eyelet dresses and down to, Pendleton wool skirts. So, the whole gamut from teenager to 80-something-year-old ladies. So I think you definitely have to have a marketed demographic you're selling to. Our age, we range from like 40 on up. But as I said, it's very it's classic clothing, but with a twist. I mean, it's something that you won't see anywhere else. We have limited quantities of each style, so especially in Baton Rouge, you two both probably know that the same people are going to the same events over and over, see a lot of the same people, so they have less of a chance of running into somebody wearing the same outfit, which is really that they
That's
really
a big
like.
thing for some people.
Oh, it is. Well, you can imagine spending,
You are a
several
fashion-
$100s buying something really cute and thinking you're all that, and then you show up. We had it happen not too long ago, and we only sold 3 of the dress, and then you walk in and someone's wearing the same dress. You can only laugh, but still inside you're like, wow, that shouldn't have happened.
I suppose so. What is your price point? I mean, because expensive is all relative, and $200 is not a lot, really, but it is to some people.
Oh, absolutely.
And so what is that middle
We
ground?
try to be really careful. We try to have things that I would say probably starting at $50
Okay.
and up. I mean, we try to hit something at most every price point. And
But I guess in today's day and age, I mean, how much inventory can you really afford to keep on hand? And particularly in sizes, for instance, if somebody tries on something and you only have 1 or 2, you can order, I guess,
we do a
smaller
lot of
size.
special orders. And another thing that's an advantage for us brick and mortar people is that we can have special events, and we have a lot of.
Kevin, tell us a little bit about entrepreneurs across borders, because you mentioned the nonprofit, field that you're working in. I think this is fascinating. And how are you really making these connections?
So from my experience, having graduated from LSU in business degree essentially, and not having any peers to rely on, I found it really important for me to network with the right individuals. And entrepreneurs, especially business owners, are very unique individuals. They're juggling their families, they're juggling a lot of things, and they have the responsibility of employing other people, identifying the products, trying to figure out what that business model is, and it's a very lonely thing. So I realized the importance of working together and meeting other people and just sitting down to decompress. And so in developing countries, it's even more challenging because they don't have the infrastructure, and it's a little bit more challenging than us. So what Entrepreneurs Across Borders does is identify, curate, and connect high potential individuals that are leaders, entrepreneurial leaders, and surrounds them with mentorship and resources they need to grow, which is exactly what we're trying to do in Baton Rouge with the business owners here in the e-commerce group, the eBay program, our accelerator program, and a lot of other programs. What's missing in the business community is the collaboration. Well, let me rephrase that. It happens, we need more of it.
Right. So how many countries are you working in? And
Right now, the country of focus is Jamaica, but I've traveled to 40 to 50 different countries, and I'm sit on the boards, and we're engaged in 190 different countries. But I'm focused in Jamaica and the Bahamas.
And how many people do you have working with you through
Well,
this
it's-
nonprofit to help?
The last 10 to 15 years, I've been traveling around the world, and learning things, and traveling for other people, doing specific events or interventions. And now it's a long-term process we're engaging in to help long-term transform things and engage. And now it's, instead of event-based, it's process-based, and we're scaling it up. We're using some artificial intelligence and some Silicon Valley technology to identify, curate, and connect these high potential individuals with resources. So I'm in the process of building the platform. It's essentially a startup. It's a startup nonprofit with a lot of experience behind it.
And you're finding opportunities, say, for these entrepreneurs in the Caribbean, around the world, here in Louisiana?
It's not just about the Caribbean. I've learned a lot of what's happened in Baton Rouge. I mean, I go through the list of, I'm fortunate to wake up every day and work with some of the most interesting people. And it's great to meet you, Chris, this morning, because I think we're going to become fast friends, right?
I think we are too.
We got a lot to learn from each other. So what I see, I'm fortunate to wake up and meet these people. People like, I mentioned barbecue guys, and just on my short list, like Natalie John, a young entrepreneur that started this sweater, is engaged with 350 universities in the United States, and has a brick and mortar store on Government Street. And who knew that, right?
Right.
I mean, she's a very special person, like Colleen Wagaspack with Fig and Dove. We have some incredible people in Baton Rouge doing some amazing things. And I'm engaging with them, and I hope the world can start seeing that specialness, not only just in Baton Rouge, but we're going to be connecting some of these people to developing countries as well, because for me, it's about giving back.
So as a brick and mortar retailer, I'm always amazed, and I assume this is a big part or a part of the process, which is fulfillment.
Yes.
So is that something that you are helping them with when you mentioned Fig and Dove?
Again, we're all challenged with all these different elements of our lives, and like I said, knowing that we're not the only ones that are struggling and challenged is a big help. And by connecting people and learning from each other, again, I'm not the expert on e-commerce, but I know a lot of people that are.
So making the connections.
We have a consultant who made a suggestion to us because, as I mentioned, we don't have a unique product to sell. We don't create anything ourselves. That there are some people that are having luck with just like putting together outfits and kind of a customized look.
Yeah. So you're focused on the fashion thing, which is great, but someone like Will Davidson, who was at LSU, was an engineering student who loved cars and started selling auto parts, and then realized, hey, this part doesn't exist, and he can create his own part. And now has this thriving auto parts business in Baton Rouge. Think about it, right? So I think about your opportunities in your retail store, people coming in asking for things that may not be manufactured or produced. What's the opportunities for you to actually create those unique products and fill it in, right? And there's examples of that all over Baton Rouge.
Yeah. And there is so much entrepreneurial creative capital, and we meet a lot of those people on this show. But what they all talk about and sort of lament in common is like the lack of an angel network, the lack of real community, which as you speak to, Kevin, is apparently growing, but there's just not really the support system that exists in other places and in bigger markets. I mean,
so when you look at LSU, 28,000 undergrads, 4,000 to 5,000 graduate students, and you look at the resources over at Southern University and then BRCC, and then our kids are going to school there, they're getting great degrees, and then they have to move.
Right.
Well, the studies show that 50% of the businesses in a city are started by the people that are graduating from those universities. So when we talk about lack of capital and everything else, I think Baton Rouge is very productive, but it can be a lot better. And we need to move up that creative capital standpoint of engaging more people in the creative process and to be able to market their creativity instead of just selling products that's developed somewhere else.
Well, and I mean, I think a lot of the blame, if we want to ascribe it, lies with the investor community, which has been always so risk averse here. You know, this is an engineering town, right?
I was going to say, in very, again, I'm going way back, but when we first started in Register, we couldn't get into a technology center because we weren't a high tech business. And so I think things have definitely developed since then. But you're right that a lot of focus
the mentality
is
here,
on
the corporate culture. Where do y'all see things in the next 3 to 5 years? In retail, brick and mortar retail, and in the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in Baton Rouge?
In 3 to 5 years, wow. Well, I think, again, brick and mortar stores have to be creative. They have to try to create a community of their customers. We focus on different ways to reach out to them, special events, as I mentioned, different things, because I think if you don't do that, then you're going to dwindle. I think I read that only 10% of all retail sales are online right now, but that's just going to grow exponentially. So I think marketing and getting in touch with your customers, keeping in touch, and being able to offer things and offer that immediate gratification, offer them fashion advice, bring clothes to their house, whatever it takes. That's what it's going to take. More service.
What I see in the people that at least I've engaged with on numerous different programs is they're exceptional people from Baton Rouge doing incredible things. And I'd like to see them stay engaged in their communities doing that brick and mortar thing, whatever they're doing, and also be thinking about the creativity and how to engage that creativity in creating new products and new services and leveraging the platforms, because that's the scalable piece. And it's not just about the platforms we talked about today. It's creating additional platforms that don't even exist, right? We need to figure out how to get more Baton Rouge out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kevin Langley and Chris Blackwood, it's always so interesting to hear insights from business people with such sharp minds and to do a deep dive into the local and national economy. So thanks so much for what you all are doing to make Baton Rouge a better place to be, and thanks for sharing your stories today on Out to Lunch.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
My guests today on Out to Lunch have been Chris Blackwood of Russo Ross and Kevin Langley of the eBay Retail Initiative. You can find out more about Russo Ross and the eBay Retail Initiative by going to the links on our website, itsbatonrouge.la. The producer of our show is Grant Morris. Our technical producer is Eric Merle, and today's show is engineered by Colin Pete. Our associate producer is Peter Raschuti, and our Baton Rouge business consultants are Charlie D'Agostino, Dave Winwood, and Ann Edelman. If you want to know what we all look like, you can find photos from this show on our website, itsbatonrouge.la, and on our It's Baton Rouge Facebook page. You can hear this show and past episodes of Out to Lunch wherever you get podcasts and at itsbatonrouge.la. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsbatonrouge.la and WRKF 89.3 FM. I'm Stephanie Riegel. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the table here at Mansur's for more business Baton Rouge style on Out to Lunch.
Out to Lunch Baton Rouge is recorded live over lunch at Mansur's on the Boulevard in Baton Rouge. Mansur's is open for lunch daily 11 to 2, for dinner nightly, and for brunch on Saturdays and Sundays. Mitchell Foreman wrote and performs all the music on Out to Lunch. You can hear Mitchell's music anywhere great jazz is sold or streamed, and at mitchellforeman.com. Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. And by Short & Associates, legal recruiters in Louisiana and Texas. And Orange Theory Fitness, delivering fitness results for a healthier world.